the link. Okay, we're in business. Hello, Wing. How are you?
Good. Very
Nice,
good. How are
nice to
you?
see you. Good. You look
Good.
fantastic.
Thank you. You do too.
Actually, we were just talking about our backgrounds, and now I'm going to point them out. Your hair matches the plant in your background. Like the shape of it, like the shape of your hair comes down, and then
Uh-huh.
your plant kind of comes down. I mean, it's kind of, it's not like
Oh,
an exact match, but they complement each other nicely.
well, I picked the right background then for this occasion.
Excellent. So, we are going to talk about yin and yang and
Uh-huh.
also, and perhaps largely, how it relates to astrology, since this is an astrology podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give a very short intro to you, Wing, which is as follows. Wing is a practitioner of Eastern medicine
Mm-hmm.
who works on the body, mind, spirit connection for the past 20 years. She's also a certified acupuncturist. So I think that makes you a very good person to talk about yin and yang, which we will relate to the feminine signs and the masculine signs, as they're usually called in astrology.
Got it.
Cool.
So the yin yang theory has been around for a long, long time. So in ancient China, they used it to interpret the different phenomena that occur in the natural world. And then the Chinese practitioners used it to explain the organic structure, the physiological functions, and pathological changes of the body, and that helps them guide in diagnosis and treatment plan. And so today I still use aspects of that. I still use it in my practice.
Nice. Can you apply yin yang to any part of life? Like for instance, in the romantic languages like Latin and Italian and stuff, there is feminine nouns and masculine nouns. And like the English language doesn't have those gendered
Mhm.
words. But that almost seems like I'm not saying it is an expression of yin yang. These are different cultures.
Mhm.
But to me, if it's true, and you can tell me what you think, that yin has archetypal semblance to feminine and yang
Mhm.
has archetypal semblance to masculine, is there a sense in which yin yang has even perpetrated the romantic languages?
Absolutely. You can apply that in a lot of aspects, not just the body and the natural occurrences in the world. What you need to know is that yin and yang are never separated, right? You need one
Mm,
for the other. And I remember I was listening to one of your podcasts about yin and yang, and I think you were trying to categorize some of the signs using yin and yang, and you kind of it was kind of like not easy for you because it didn't seem to make sense. And I think what happened was you had to know that it's never separated. They're always together. Um, they're always they complement one another. So without yin, there's no yang, and without yang, there's no yin. And so let's just say if you were to, say Pisces or more yin, right? And I guess you can't say that there's just yin because there's always like elements of them that's yang.
mm.
That
So
makes sense.
I mean, it's certainly how you have to have one to have the other certainly makes sense, and hence the yin yang same symbol is so famous.
Mhm.
Isn't there a
Mhm.
word for that symbol, actually?
Um, I think it's called the yin yang symbol.
Okay, I think there might be another word for it. I looked it up a while ago, but I can't remember. It was hard to pin down on Google, but I
Right,
think there is some word for it. It doesn't really matter. Everyone calls it the yin yang symbol. So,
right, right, right.
So yeah, that's a good point, but the whole but like okay, so they kind of fold into each other,
Mhm.
but still we can think of them as being separate. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the categories of yin and yang. So if tell me this, how
Mhm.
does yin and yang map onto feminine and masculine?
Okay, so yes, yin is feminine, yang is masculine,
Okay.
but then within that category, okay, so if you go to let's just say yin is feminine, but within that feminine there's uh also masculine traits. It's
Okay.
almost like you can't just put you cannot you cannot just put yin, categorize female as yin, period, because there's aspects of them that's feminine
Mhm.
and masculine.
So like
So
a
it
person, for instance. So like a male, like I'm a man. I identify as a man and a male.
Mhm.
I have that would be masculine, but yet I have a bunch of feminine traits as well, and I identify very strongly with femininity.
Mhm.
So that's like an example. A person has both yin and yang traits, even if one considers oneself to be male or female, gender-wise.
Correct, correct. Like I am yin, I'm feminine, but behind the wheel, I'm probably very masculine. And I'm
Okay.
trying.
Well, and even in the symbol, the yin yang symbol, there's a little dot, like it's
Right.
black and white, and then in the black section, which would probably be considered yin usually, right? There's a little white dot, which is like the yang inside of the yin, right?
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
So so Pisces, which is a considered classically a feminine sign,
Mm.
we could consider it a yin sign, but we always have to remember that it might have masculine traits somewhere embedded within it as well.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, how about my brain just went foggy. I just had a question and then I forgot. Um, well, while I think of that question, do you want to say other things about yin yang?
Yeah. So going back to your podcast, right? Because I
Mhm.
think that was why we were having this discussion. You were mentioning that you know, the traits of yin is calm, quiet, receiving, bending, and,
Mhm.
and and I think you were uncomfortable with classifying that with certain um, signs as well. And I think um, what I, you need to know is that to bend, to receive, to give in is not necessarily weak,
Yeah, definitely 100%. No, I
right?
saw a list of yin terms once in a class, and a lot
Mhm,
of them I completely agreed with, and then one of them was weak. And I
mhm,
remember going to the teacher later and saying, I don't think weak belongs in that list.
mhm.
Strong was the yang and yin had weak. I was like, that's terrible. That's like basically calling, and it's basically sexist. I mean, it's like basically saying like, I know it's not exactly saying that, but
Mhm.
it's very, it kind of it suggests that women are weak. I think that, okay, well,
Right.
you can respond to that before I continue.
Yeah. So it's a very Eastern thought process. And then we're trying to bring that to a Western world with Western thought process. So here's a great example. Let's look at a bridge, right? A bridge, which you say is young, very young, it's sturdy, cars drive over it, many cars, and it still holds. but you if you look at the how it's constructed, it has to bend and give, right? If
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't bend and give, it will collapse,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
sure. Plus, it connects two things. And the
Right?
connecting thing is normally, I mean, I don't know about normally, but
Mhm.
if someone was going to ask me, is the connecting archetype feminine or masculine, I feel like feminine would be the first answer I give to that question.
To connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. But yeah, it's almost like if you look at a willow tree, right? It's
My
very
favorite
bend.
tree.
Okay, it's very bending, and
Yeah,
then and then and then when there's snow on it, right? It'll never when it snows, the willow tree will never break. Whereas
exactly.
if you have a oak tree,
Uh-huh.
right, that's like sturdy,
Right.
um, strong.
Hmm.
If there's too much snow on it, it can break,
Yeah,
right?
strength in bending for sure.
So bending to give allows you to overcome a lot too.
Hmm.
So bend, weak, and
Hmm.
all that is not necessarily negative.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I
But I
normally think of bending as being a very positive trait.
right,
Like
right.
generally, if I were gonna pick being bendable or not bendable, I'm definitely gonna pick bendable, like without
Oh,
even thinking about it. Like I
yeah.
can't even think of a time. I mean, there are times when you have to like be strong. That's true. Like do the strong, quote unquote, like be fixed, be the thing that you need to be solid so that you can accomplish or whatever. But in general, even within that, you have to bend a little bit or else you're just gonna like fall over like that oak tree. Oh, and before I forget, I definitely want to talk about gender neutral before we're done here, but I don't want to get there yet. But I don't want to forget about it. So that's just like I'm pinning that to our list of things to talk about. Another thing I want to say about different ways of conceptualizing yin yang, besides just feminine and masculine, would be night day.
Mm.
Some astrologers don't even prefer the word feminine and masculine. Oh, I lost her. Okay, we're back. There was a glitch there for a minute. So where were we? I don't remember now.
Oh, I'm just realizing my plant here matches your plants in the background.
Ooh, nice. And I have one
Right.
of those. Yeah, you're right. They totally does. And I have one of those plants in my other room that's like humongous. It's like as
Mm.
tall as probably my, I don't know, chest or something. And it's really full. And it produces these long, very delicate, thin stalks of
Uh-huh.
flowers that
Hmm.
smell really good, but it doesn't produce them all the time, but like at least once a year.
Right.
Oh, I know
No,
what we're
when
talking about.
oh,
Alternative, rather than like thinking of yin and yang as feminine and masculine as night
mhm,
and day. So, I was saying there's astrologers who don't even prefer to use like Taurus, like the earth signs and the water signs in
mhm,
astrology are considered feminine. But some
mhm,
astrologers say they don't use that terminology, they just use nocturnal. And then the other signs, the fire signs and the air signs, instead of being
mhm.
masculine, they will be considered diurnal or daytime signs. Doesn't
Right,
mean that like a fire sign has to be up in the day. It could be down in the night because there are kind of every other sign is masculine and feminine or nocturnal and diurnal or yin
right, right,
and yang.
right.
So how do you feel? Do you have anything to say about night and day as in regards to yin and yang?
Yeah, obviously, night is yin, day is yang, right? Daydream. Yes.
Daydream. There you go.
Daydream a
Day and
lot.
night. Day is day. Dream is
Uh-huh.
night. Daydream is like a combination of yin and yang. Right here, you got
Right,
it. Just cut
right.
black and white. I'm sorry. I was so enamored with my cup. You said, yeah, you said yang is day, yin is night. So that's like a normal thing that you would have associated.
Right, right. But then there's like, like in the morning hours, it's in the morning hours, it's like a yang within yin, right?
Right.
At
Hmm.
noon is yang within yang, and then the afternoon is like yin within yang, and right.
Oh. Oh. And like the most beautiful times of the day sometimes is dusk and dawn,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like completely mixed day and night.
Absolutely. Yes.
Which,
Yes.
yeah, that's like really interesting. So
Yes.
that makes sense in a different way than I hadn't thought about it in that sense before.
Yes. It can, yeah, you can you can use the yin yang theory in almost everything, in relationships and and
Yeah.
everything.
Can you give
Right.
us an example of using it in like a relationship? I would love to hear an example if you can think of one.
Right. Okay. So um the female being yin, right,
Mhm.
is nurturing, very nurturing,
Mhm.
and and the yang is the male energy, and that's very um solid, right? It's very supportive. Okay. So when you have and that complements one another, right? And
Mhm.
so in relationships, that's, that's kind of like the a positive balance, right? And
Mhm.
they say that if, let's just say, the female becomes too masculine, right? Too masculine, embodying the, the masculine role, and then the dynamic changes in the relationship,
Mhm.
where now you have the female taking on what is, I guess, supposed to be the masculine role, and when that happens, she becomes less creative. Does that make sense? Like, it changes her too.
Right,
And
but why
that
would that make her less creative?
because she's busy slaying dragons,
Oh, okay. But
right?
okay.
Who
But
has time to be creative when you're busy slaying dragons?
oh, okay. Now, what if the man then takes on more of the feminine roles? So there's still a balance of masculine and feminine energy, despite the gender that they normally associate with male and female.
Okay, so you're saying if the female becomes more masculine, and in turn the male becomes more feminine,
Hmm.
yeah, then there's that balance.
Hmm.
So
And
there
that's
is a
fine,
balance.
right?
It can be, if
Yeah.
if 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 they're good with that,
Yeah, like whatever works.
whatever works for them,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, this is a very important topic, especially
Mm-hmm.
since I don't know, more probably always, but it's kind of a hot topic in culture more recently in the past decade, it seems to me, than it was before with gender expression or gender identity,
Mm-hmm.
even getting a sex change, for instance, something that dramatic. If
Right.
like I know, more than one person who has one person I knew pretty well and she was a man, and then when she became a woman, she really felt like herself for the first time ever. This is after like many decades of living. So, and it kind of, there's so much probably to say about that. In one
Mm-hmm.
hand, it supports your original point you were making that the feminine and the masculine are folded into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also it kind of, I'm pointing that out as an expression of what we were just talking about, how a man can have more feminine qualities, in fact could feel entirely like a woman and doesn't really feel like they are themselves until they actually behave the way they conceive of a woman, or society conceives of a woman. So like it's just the yin and yang. It's like, what if you have two women who are in a relationship, I'm completely theorizing. I don't know. I'm not like an expert in this stuff. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud. If you have two
I'm
women,
not either, by the way.
okay, great. If you have
I'm
two women who
not.
are, right. If you have two women who are in a relationship,
Mhm,
that's 100% fine. Obviously, they're gay, they're together.
mhm,
What if one of them has more masculine energy or yang energy? The other one has more yin energy. You might say, oh, there's a good balance there. But what if they both are very yin? What if they're both very feminine, whatever that means? That doesn't necessarily mean there's no balance because they might crave the feminine
mhm,
and not crave or need or express the masculine. So what I guess what I'm saying is this archetypal balance of yin and yang,
mhm,
I don't think it has to express itself in the relationship in a clear, straightforward 50-50% kind of way. Like I think there's like you can be any way with any kind of like percentage of yin or yang in your personality or your identity or in how you relate to others or another person and
mhm.
still that be viable and 100% fine. See what I'm saying? So like I don't want to make rules about how to be as a person or as a relationship based on this idea of yin and yang. I guess that's what I'm saying. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yin and yang is not, it's theories, it's not rules to
Right.
live by. It
Yeah.
explains the natural occurrences in the world.
Hmm.
It doesn't, it's not rules to live by.
It's not
Yeah.
prescriptive. It doesn't tell you how to behave. It just is like a way of um it's a way of entering in a realm of ideas that we naturally kind of relate to since most people are born with male sex organs or female sex organs. And so
Mhm,
like it made sense that we came up with some model that was male and female. Like, of course, we're going to come up with a model of thought that's male and female. And as human, very creative human beings,
mhm,
10,000 years ago, or whenever Yin Yang was created, or 100,000 years ago,
mhm,
it makes sense that they would have then applied the masculine and feminine principles to like other parts of life. And then like, oh, water is very feminine because of whatever, maybe like the birthing waters in the belly, the amniotic fluid, or like there's a million reasons why we could come up with why yin and yang are meaningful in life and why they would relate to masculine and feminine or night and day.
mhm.
Um, but it's not, it doesn't tell you how to be or what to do. Yeah. I just think that's a really important point because a lot of people do believe that a man should be a man and a woman should be a woman. And I think a lot of that's subconscious or cultural. So I don't want to like conflate the idea of yin and yang with how to be or how culture should be or people should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like,
And
yes.
then mystery is an interesting word because like nighttime, if nighttime is yin, the night is mysterious. At least it is to me. I mean, when I go outside at 11 p.m. and I look at the stars, like that's mystery to me.
Mhm.
Maybe it's not to everyone. I can't speak for everyone. Is it to you?
Uh, yeah, because I'm usually asleep by then, so I'm not out there.
Okay, well then choose 9 p.m. Choose your time where nighttime, where you go outside and you see the stars. Well, you're in LA, so you might not see a lot of stars,
I don't.
but you've been in places where you've
I
seen stars.
Correct, correct. No, it's wonderful. It's very um definitely when you're out there gazing at the stars, it's really magical. I
Yeah,
find it magical.
magical, mysterious. So would you say those are yin qualities also?
Um, I don't know about magical, but maybe mysterious,
Okay.
right? Some of them are
Mhm.
just neutral, right?
Mm,
Because
okay.
you can say you can describe yin as magical just as yang.
You
Like
can.
on a beautiful sunny day
Yeah.
over the Pacific Ocean. That's magic,
hmm
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, we have here an example of like my mind automatically
Mhm. Mhm.
associated nighttime with magic. Just it just did that without even considering really how the yin side of magic.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, magic is inherent in both.
Right. But definitely I think nighttime is there's an element of mystery because you don't see what's going on. And it's the same with like your body. That's when your body heals, right? So all the different body functions kind of like getting their time to recalibrate. You don't
Mhm.
see it um
Mhm.
happening. So it
Okay.
is.
So there's another word, healing. Does
Mm-hmm.
healing equally belong to yin and yang? Or because you just yourself kind of said something about nighttime and healing, like your body processes while you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But is there also a yin side of healing that's just as powerful and evident as, sorry, a yang side as yin?
Yeah, you need the yang to make the yin happen in at least in our medicine. So, for
Mm,
example, yin is again nourishing, right? It is yang is more like dynamic. So an example is when you eat, right? Your body breaks down the food, so it uses the yang energy to break
mm,
down the food
okay.
and turns it into micronutrients to nourish the body, right?
Mm,
So the micronutrients are like yin, so it the blood,
hmm
um,
So
and
that
that's
active process of breaking down is yang, but
yeah,
the result that like nourishes you is yin.
correct. So you need one to make the other,
Yeah.
and so the yin, which is the blood, nourishes the body to create the yang energy. So do you see it's
hmm
a cycle, right?
Right. hmm
Yin nourishes the body to create the yang energy, and the yang energy breaks down the food and metabolizes, and it turns all that food into nourishment,
hmm
for the body. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and and
Example.
it's ongoing throughout the day. So
hmm
but
So it's not like nighttime has more healing the energy than daytime.
well, nighttime, I think more happens with the healing because you're asleep and the focus is on the healing.
Okay.
Whereas, whereas daytime, you're like out and about doing different, um, chores or work, so some of your energy is used in your chores, right? Whereas nighttime, it's all like healing the body.
Okay. So could you therefore say that nighttime that since nighttime is related to yin, that yin is more closely related to the healing energy than yang? Or no, you can't say that. Can you or I don't know. I'm just asking.
Um, I mean, I feel like there's more healing that takes place at night, but I wouldn't say the healing energy is
Okay.
is yin, right? Because remember, there's the yang energy that's needed to make the yin. So that is this as healing.
Okay. So just because more healing takes place at night doesn't make yin more of a healing um, thing than yang. Like they're both equally healing, even
Yeah,
though healing in your estimation takes place more at night than at day.
I feel like
Okay.
it
Well,
takes
that's
place
interesting.
because you're asleep and the think of the battery, okay?
hmm
Like the iPhone battery. When when you're asleep, you're just focused on the healing app, the body app, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the day, there's like the app for teaching, banking, grocery. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to split up your battery for that.
Right, right. Yeah, that's
Right.
true. Your processing power. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
whereas nighttime, you don't have the grocery shopping, you don't have like, the banking, the
Uh,
childcare, the teaching, you know.
Although I will say at night, there's a chance to psychologically process maybe through our dreams. It's maybe not as much so as like what you're saying about daytime, like working and going to the bank and taking care of your kid and all that stuff. That's like a lot of very different processes that,
Right.
but at nighttime, it's not just about body healing. In my view, it's also about mind and spirit healing as well.
Right. Right. Oh, definitely. The body, the mind, the spirit, they're one.
Yeah, they're
Right.
one. Here's a
So that
question for you. Random
Mhm,
question.
mhm,
Heart and mind, it's not random from my perspective, but it might be seem random to you. Are the
mhm.
What is the relationship between the heart and mind?
The heart and mind. I feel like, when people say, well, listen to your instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the heart. Yeah.
Mm,
The mind is the it's more calculative. It's more it's more about, let's just say the heart says, oh, I need to go to Paris, right? And the mind goes, okay, let's figure out how we're gonna get there.
mhm. Okay.
See the difference?
Yeah, so they're distinct for you. I just want to make sure because I had a conversation with someone recently,
Mhm.
whether or not like they're actually the same thing or how distinct are they. So just wanted to get your take on that. Since we're the whole context for this, the whole basis of our conversation today is yin and yang, which are distinct in some way and yet combined. So I wondered
Right.
if somehow your ideas about yin and yang um, influenced your ideas about heart and mind. Like, for instance, one might consider the heart to be more yin and the mind to be more yang. Like, one might.
Mhm.
I don't know if anyone does, but I could imagine that one would do that.
I think so.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we could find examples that are yin and yang in nature or culture if we wanted to, um, as an exercise, just to kind of fine tune our analysis. Or we could move on to the next part of the conversation. Oh, I have an idea.
Uh-huh.
This is new. This is a rather new idea for me.
Okay.
But let me give the pretext for it. Is that the right word? The where this idea is kind of coming, why it's important to me now.
Hmm.
A few months ago, I got very into fire, as in thing in the world, flames.
Hmm.
And I basically considered fire to be very essential, independent, self-existing, primal, and like just the basis for everything. Fire was became very important as a idea and actuality to me.
Hmm.
And therefore, I considered the fire signs in astrology, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, to be very just energetic, like pre material. Like,
Hmm.
yes, we live in a material world, which also contains energy, but the
Hmm.
matter, in my opinion, lately,
Hmm.
the material world is secondary and the energetic world is primary. And the energetic world pertain to the fire signs, whereas
Hmm.
the material world, stuff, atoms, molecules, etc., pertains to the earth signs. Now, this matters for our conversation because the fire signs are masculine or yang, whereas the earth signs are feminine or yin. And so that is automatically, it didn't occur to me right away that I was kind of implying that the masculine signs were more primal, were more essential in some kind of way,
Hmm.
not more relevant. I've long considered
Mhm.
the material universe that we live in to be extremely relevant because that's where we spend 99% of our time in life. Yes, it's also energetic, but like we very much deal with eating and going to the bathroom and having
Right, right.
children and surviving.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying it's more relevant.
Mhm.
I just kind of thought on a like a fundamental philosophical level, it was more essential.
Mhm.
I'm now rewinding and like changing that story. And the reason why is because I read something recently that kind of made me think differently about the water signs. Now, we just talked about fire and earth signs. The water signs are also feminine, and those are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces.
Mhm.
So, water in the probably most astrologers, certainly the ones in my social circle, consider water to represent emotions, among other things.
Mhm.
Whereas fire is energy, earth is material, and water is emotions. Emotions are not only super relevant and important for like every part of the day,
Right.
but the way I was reading something, I don't remember what it was, that talked about water, or maybe I read something and it sparked an older memory from something I read a long time ago where water was the primordial substance of the universe, not fire. Fire's
Mhm.
not a substance, it's like an energy. Water is some substance. In other words, there was one of the Greek creation myths, is that the first thing was night, darkness,
Mhm.
chaos. There was
Mhm.
no structure, there was no form, there was no light even.
Mhm.
Later, within this unformed mass of blackness, which I would say is yin,
Mhm.
came light. And then with the light, vibrations started happening and structures started evolving. And then suddenly, 10 million years later, we get the universe. So,
Mhm.
but the primal thing then is not fire signs, but the water of the like or the night of the universe. Now, if you consider that to be water, because water, like the content of our experience, yes, we energetically do things, but the meaning from the experience doesn't necessarily come from the doing. It can, I suppose, but it doesn't, we don't normally conceive of doing something in itself giving us all the meaning. Rather, I shouldn't speak for everyone. The way I've been thinking of it lately, I should just speak for myself, is the significance of an action in large part is due to the emotional content. If it's saturated with a lot of emotional wonder, or either mystery or magic or whatever, joy, love, pleasure, that stuff is water sign material. So the activity,
Mhm.
the organization, which is more like air, but we'll just leave air out of it for now. The energetic enabling of structure and doing stuff like fire and earth
Mhm.
gets its meaning and comes out of this like kind of deeper container of water, which is even in a sense more primal than fire. See what I'm saying? I know we don't need to say one thing's more primal than another. We don't need to hierarchize. Like I understand that. I just have a tendency as a personality to put things in a hierarchy, and I've been trying to like not do that for many decades, but I just kind of naturally tend to do it. It helps me to organize ideas in some kind of way that makes sense to me. So I know I'm talking a long time. I'm sorry. I'm almost done, and then you can respond. So just to recap, I was thinking for many months that fire and energy was primal and more essential and the basis of reality. And lately, I'm kind of scaling back now and thinking the feminine, the water, the darkness, the unformed mass, the emotional potential is
Mhm.
actually the more primal thing. Now, I'll probably next year end up being where they share a space. I mean, Yin and Yang should share a space. But so that's my recent thoughts on the matter. Do you have any reflection on all of that?
Right, right. Well, uh, the way you're describing it kind of reminds me of the gestational period, right? So you were saying it started as dark
Mm-hmm.
water
Mm-hmm.
nourishment. So it's kind of like and then came afterwards, the fire and the air and all that. So it kind of
Mm.
reminds me of the 9 months that we were in our mother's belly,
Yeah,
right? It's
totally.
dark and
Hmm.
definitely growth, nourishment within, but it's dark. And then after 9 months, you're out, and then there's air and there's fire.
You take your first breath. Yeah. And there's
Right,
light.
right, right, light. And
And you're no longer one with the mother. You are now separated.
yeah. But what you need to know is when you're in that room, a lot of things are happening. So where a lot of yang
Right.
movement is happening to create
Hmm.
create this being, right?
Right. Right.
So even though it's dark, right?
Hmm.
Still a lot of activity.
Yeah, it's like the seed of yang is present within the womb of yin
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. So like just reiterating your initial point that you can never really separate them.
You can
Yeah.
never separate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's harder because it is an Eastern concept. I think it is a little harder to like apply that with Western um theories and concepts and Western thought process. Yeah. That's why it's
Yeah.
a little challenging at times.
Maybe, but I'm going to challenge you on that point a little
Mhm,
bit. The
mhm,
reason being that every human shares something very important
mhm,
in common, which is being human, and that no
mhm,
matter what part of the world they were born in, or even what millennium, they
mhm,
still share like archetypes and ways of being that are common to all humans. So even though like China became
mhm,
known for the yin yang
mhm,
idea,
mhm,
um, Europe, which is where astrology
mhm,
also condensed in other cultures, but the kind of astrology I practice, like Western Hellenistic astrology, condensed in Europe and Egypt. That, but it was related to India. Like there was crossover, right,
right,
during
right,
the
right, right.
process. But so that part of the world, when they decided to break the sky into 12 signs and half of them masculine, half of them feminine, I'm not going to say that it's completely unrelated to yin yang. Maybe they use different words because they had different language. Maybe that wasn't exactly the same idea. Maybe it was very different. But I just think there's a lot of crossover and similarity, which is why we're able to talk about yin as feminine and yang as masculine, and the earth and water signs as feminine or yin, and the fire and air signs as masculine or yang. So yeah,
No, I agree with you. There is definitely a crossover.
yeah.
I just think uh words
Hmm.
word translations probably mm,
Hmm. There is
you know
often something lost in the translation.
exactly
And there it
because
does seem to be a different, like we at least view Eastern religions and philosophies as being different from Western religions philosophies. I think there's probably many books that challenge that. I'm guessing there's articles and papers written that challenge that dichotomy that we have, that we kind of grow up. We grow up. Culture tells us there's a difference. There's Eastern and there's Western, and I'm just kind of right now challenging that in my own mind because of what I just said, basically.
right, right, right. There's
But
definitely crossovers and
yeah.
and I just think uh, there are certain words in like the Chinese language that cannot be directly or
Hmm.
translated into English. Same with
Yes.
like the
Hmm.
Japanese language and same with like
Hmm.
uh, English to Chinese. It's just
Hmm.
there is lost in translation
Yeah, you
and
have to describe a word rather than just put another word.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge, definitely there's crossovers
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and but it's the things that are lost in translation that can make it a little more difficult.
Yeah. So moving on to gender neutral,
Mm-hmm.
the, there are plenty of people who identify as gender neutral, and that I don't know if there's a lot to say about this. I just kind of wanted to just touch on it,
Mhm,
since to
mhm,
it's an important part of our world. Like gender neutrality has definitely gained some a place to some
mhm,
degree in at least the society that I'm living in, but it's still
mhm,
very fringe. In general, there's a very strong man is masculine and woman is feminine
mhm,
kind of assumption and way of being. And I was shocked when I saw my little grade schooler. She's now in fourth grade. In second grade, first grade, second grade, third grade, I thought after all of these years that have gone by
mhm,
that the kids would be more integrated, the boys and the girls.
mhm,
I was shocked when I discovered from reports from my daughter that they are not at all integrated. Now, I haven't asked her recently, so maybe fourth grade they're starting to integrate more. I haven't asked her lately, but on the playground in school, they were always separated. Like almost, and maybe that was just her report. Maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe that's just her school, but there's a lot of separation between boys and girls, much more than I expected in this day and age. So which is just to say there's still a huge division between masculine and feminine in our culture, at least where I live in Tennessee. So gender
So different
neutral,
here in LA.
it's like that there too.
No, it's very different.
Oh, it's more
Integrated.
integrated. Okay.
Yeah,
Even
I used to teach for 5 years, and
oh, okay.
I was a teacher.
Oh, what years were you teaching?
I I taught kindergarten 1 year, and then I was a substitute teacher for
Oh,
for 4 more years. And and during that time, I was working on my acupuncture schooling. Yeah,
right. So that's interesting to hear that's more integrated. I mean, Tennessee is not the same as LA for sure.
yeah.
I love Tennessee, but you know,
So do
if I had a
I.
magic pen, I would change some things about it. So gender neutral plays, I feel like, an important role these days in integrating the yin and yang within a
Mhm,
person's own identity.
mhm.
And when you come across someone who's gender neutral, to me, that is kind of like a yeah, because they're not being confined by the cultural roles that tell them to be a male or a female. Um, do you have any comments on gender neutrality and yin yang?
Well, I think the yin yang sign says there's aspects of a female within a male and aspects of a male within a female. So it makes sense
Mm,
that in a way it makes it explains why there's more of that. It's almost like the sign at its being shown.
Yeah, it's
And
like there's an infinite variety of expression within yin and yang.
yeah,
Yeah, and every person gets to be whatever expression they are.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the gender neutral is like the yin yang sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, I mean it makes sense to me. Yeah. Like if
Yeah.
you're just like a manly man, it's like you
Mhm,
got the one part of the sign and like the other part might be missing. And then you might look for that other part in a
mhm,
womanly woman, for instance.
mhm,
Right. And or maybe not, maybe there's a manly man who's looking for a manly man. And then I would ask myself, what happened to the woman? Like, where's the feminine? Now, feminine and women are not the same. I'm kind of conflating gender or feminine and
mhm.
sex and person identity. But you know what I'm saying? I just wonder. I don't know. I've always been a stereotypical guy in a way who like likes girls. Like that's just how I've been. I like different kinds of girls, sure. Like some feminine, some more masculine. That's fine. But typically I am attracted to females. And so for me, it's like pretty straightforward. I fit very well into the cultural mold. I am not like breaking any barriers down with my way of being. So therefore, I'm not very well acquainted with what it might look like to be a manly man who only likes to hang out with manly men. And like, where is the yin in that lifestyle or that life? Like, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just thinking about it now. I don't normally sit around thinking about it. So I'm just talking out of the top of my hat, basically.
Right, right,
I'm winging
right.
it. We're winging
Yeah,
it.
we're winging it. Yes, yes. Um, right. For all we know, that manly man can be like, when he goes home, he probably loves to cook.
So you
We
think
don't
it's
know.
there. So you think there is like somewhere in his life the yin is contained. Now, is there a danger in being too yin or too yang as a person or a personality?
I don't think danger is the word.
Hmm.
I don't think there would be danger.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, can you elaborate that?
Yeah, like if I'm a very feminine type of man, at least that's how I see myself, and I believe other people may see me that way as well often. So I feel like I'm integrated. I feel like my male and female parts are integrated pretty well. But
Mhm,
I look at some men who
mhm,
just look so manly, and like when I say manly, I mean like strong, muscular, aggressive,
mhm.
like the part of manly that kind of scares me. Like I don't want to talk too much to the person because like they might beat me up. That kind of manly. Now I
Uh-huh.
know that's not what young means. I know that's not what it means to be a man. But I'm just saying there's these certain kinds of people who are like extremely feminine and guys who are extremely masculine. And could it be that if somebody is not integrating their yin and yang, that they are just not living in a healthy way? Like there's some kind of psychiatric or psychological, split that they're not accessing the other part of their life? Or is that not
Possibly, possibly.
okay? So is yin and yang a tool that we could use to like try to maintain a healthy mind, body, spirit balance?
That's one of the tools. Just
Mhm.
one, it's an aspect. I wouldn't
Yeah.
primarily use that alone.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying in isolation, but
Mhm.
yeah. Can you
Yeah.
give us any examples from your practice of how yin and yang play a role, or any stories or anything like that? Or is it just kind of part of the theory of what you do and you don't like think about it specifically?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so how we use how I use the yin and yang theory at my work. Okay, so let's say I have a female client who is going through, let's just say, the menopause stage in her life, right? So hormones are changing, and and you hear about like the hot flashes
Hmm.
that that happens, the hot flashes, the insomnia, and the dryness, the the inflammation,
Hmm.
and so in her case, she has very low in yin energy, right?
Mm.
Very low, and that's why when there's an imbalance of too much or too little of one or the other, then you have, you know, a disease or an imbalance. And so in her case, it would be yin deficiency. So when you're low in fluids and blood, then you have this excess heat,
Mm.
right? It appears to be heat. There's more heat, and so there'll be more again like that hot sensation, inflammation, and that affects her sleep and moods and all
Mm.
that. Does that help?
Yeah, so what do you do?
You would
What is your job in that case? What do you do to help?
Yes, so we would nourish the yin, right? We would help. build more body fluids and
Mm.
blood. And so, yeah, nurture the yin, bring the yin back up so that it's balanced with the yang, right?
Okay. And when you, this whole story you just told, is that how you would conceptualize it before this podcast? Like you think in terms of yin and yang when you're in with a client?
Yeah, in this case, yes.
Okay. So when you said yin deficiency, like that's a phrase that you've used in your mind before.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Great.
Used a lot in the traditional Chinese medicine world.
I see. So that's kind of what I was getting at before. Like I said, dangerous. I guess I didn't mean dangerous like someone's going to die, but
Hmm.
unhealthy might have been a better word. Like when you're deficient in one of the two parts of the equation, then it's not so healthy necessarily. But what that looks like for each individual person is specific to that person. You can't like make generalizations like, oh, you everyone needs a certain amount of, cooking per day to be healthy or whatever. It's like everyone has their own way of expressing the yin and yang in their life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So going back to what you were saying, like, is it too dangerous to have, more or excess of one or the other? So
Mhm.
when it comes to the physical body,
Mm.
yeah, it would. I thought you were just talking about like the expressions, like
Okay.
personality.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. But yes, but when we bring it to the health round
Yeah,
region.
yeah, yes, definitely.
Cool.
When there's an imbalance, that's how you get like diseases. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Okay.
very good.
When there's a yin yang imbalance, that's when you get diseases. We could say that.
Mhm, mhm.
What does a yang deficiency look like? You just gave an example of a yin deficiency.
Okay, so yang is warming, right? Invigorating. Yin is cooling. So think of this: you have yang as the heater, right?
Mhm.
Yin as the coolant, the air conditioner, right?
Mhm.
So if you're low in the heating, then your body's gonna be like cold, very cold, and um and when there's excess cold, your circulation is not good, and so you're gonna be cold and stiff and achy and slow and and have issues, definitely.
Okay.
So
Can you use acupuncture to correct for a yin or yang deficiency?
yes.
There's body part, like can you give me an example of using acupuncture in that regard?
Yeah, there are certain points that certain acupuncture points on the body that helps nourish the yin in the body, and there are certain acupuncture points that help nourish, strengthen the yang.
That's amazing.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
from an astrological perspective, if someone was born and they have like all their planets in fire signs, for instance,
mhm,
maybe they're like, I mean, every individual is different and you can't generalize, but let's just
right.
say this Joe down the road has all of his planets and asteroids and fire signs and he's like just hot all the time. So in
Uh-huh.
order to cool him down, you could like stick needles in his toes or whatever.
um yeah, along with like, you know uh change in diet, right? Certain diets are more yin, certain foods are more yang, right?
Yeah.
So diet and definitely habit changes, diet changes.
Hmm.
It's not just acupuncture alone,
Yeah, you
right?
can't just use
It's
acupuncture to correct for
so,
somebody's overabundance of fire planets.
mhm.
You know,
Right,
we should
right.
have we should have charted your natal chart before we logged on. I don't even know what's your sun sign. What's your sign? You don't know your sign?
I'm a Gemini. Is
Oh,
that
you're a
Gemini?
Gemini?
I'm a Gemini.
I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Maybe I did know that at one point. By the
Right.
way, listeners, Wing, Tam, and I went to college together in the early 90s in Maine.
Mhm.
We
Good.
saw each other in Nashville last year, I guess it was, which was really
Yeah.
fun. And we
Yeah.
hadn't seen each other in like 30 years or whatever. So that was really fun.
Yeah. We had a miniature reunion, right?
Yeah, we had a
We
miniature
have another
reunion, Colby
pod.
reunion. Hmm.
That was
So you're a Gemini. So my wife's a Gemini,
mhm.
and I just did a Gemini podcast like last week. So there's a lot of
Oh,
Gemini around my life.
oh, what do you have to say about Geminis? I'm curious.
You're putting me on the spot now. Okay.
Yeah.
Gemini is an air sign.
Uh-huh.
And I normally think of mind, intellect,
Hmm.
ideas when I think of air signs. Gemini
Hmm.
is a mutable air sign, so it's the kind that bends and flows. So it's
Hmm.
like the clouds, it's the wind, it can be directionless, so it's good to
Hmm.
give it direction. But it's that strength comes in the adaptability. That's where its strength comes. So it is a yang sign. It is a masculine sign. All the
Hmm.
air signs are.
Hmm.
Um, but as we've so thoroughly discussed, it doesn't mean it doesn't have like almost
Right.
just as much yin. Maybe it's like 50.00000000001% yang and the rest is yin. Maybe that's the reality. Maybe like this yin yang divide is like just a touch over the 50-50.
Hmm.
Um, and it's I Gemini is curious. It's young. It likes to gather information and kind of do what it wants with it. It likes to juggle. It has to do with like branching, so it can express itself in like bipolarity, for instance, but it can also express itself in like lots of different ways. And that could look like being indecisive, but could also look like enjoying multitasking. So it's not like a Gemini is a good multitasker or is a bad multitasker. It could look like either thing. It's more the ideas of multitasking is a Gemini idea. How that looks in your life is depends on all the things about you and the rest of your chart and your life and what you've developed and what you prefer and all that.
Right.
That's a
Right.
little bit. It's also mercurial. Mercury is the sign that like rules Gemini.
Hmm.
So, Mercury is like this guy who actually talk about combining opposites, yin and yang. Mercury goes heaven, earth, hell, equally at ease. He's one of the few who can travel these different
Hmm.
dimensions with no problem at all. He's like the bringer of dreams. He can connect us to our dreams.
Hmm.
He's actually, speaking of gender neutral, typically the Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, these are considered males, whereas the moon, Luna, and Venus are considered females. Well, Mercury, I think of as gender neutral.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Great. I like that.
yeah. And
So,
then,
so okay.
so that's some about Gemini.
Nice. I love that.
Does any of that relate? Do you relate to any of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you were saying like, we can be decisive or just a great multi indecisive or a great multitasker. So
Mhm.
it's almost like I think when my body, mind, spirit is strong, I can be
Mhm.
an amazing multitasker. But when
Nice.
it's a little off, I'll be indecisive,
Perfect.
I
Love it.
think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a little over an hour. Is there anything else you want to talk about? We didn't
Um,
talk about how yin yang gets into all the signs, but I don't think we need to. I think we kind of touched on the different elements.
right, right, right. No, I'm good. I hope I was able to help you answer some of
Yeah, definitely. I got some clarity around yin and yang. Yep,
right, right.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me
Oh,
here.
you're so welcome. It's so nice to see you, Wing.
Good to see you. Thanks. Thanks
All
again.
right.
You have a great day, great
You
week.
too, Wing. You too. Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye bye.